Rodimus coming at you with another video review. And this is one that I was really looking forward to in this new wave. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Sideswipe. For the package, Studio Series packaging with the Transformers Generation logo right there. You got a really cool image of Sideswipe on top of the open window. You can see that this is how he appeared in Transformers Dark of the Moon. Side of the package has an up-close image of him. He's number 29. Come to the other side, a little bit more pulled back image of him. Then you come to the back of the package, and you do have images of the other figures that are currently in this wave. You got a backdrop, which is the Dread standoff scene, which is cool. And it says, Sideswipe backs up Ironhide in a head-to-head with the Dreads. And then you got an image of him in his vehicle in robot mode. And you can totally see that this is how he looked in Dark of the Moon because he was a convertible. When he was in Revenge of the Fallen, it was a hardtop. So that's a much cooler look, I think. But for the packaging on this guy, that's about it. So without further ado, let's get him out here and see how cool he actually is. Alright guys, so here we have the new Studio Series Sideswipe opened up out of its packaging and obviously in his vehicle mode. And starting off first, we do get the nice backdrop here. See, it does look like that city street that we saw where the two Dreads, Sideswipe, and of course Ironhide kind of squared off, which is what this is obviously meant to replicate. You got the Transformers Dark of the Moon base, and you know, you can just do that and have a Mexican standoff. Because that's not a joke that hasn't been used 1,000 times with this guy. Coming in to take a closer look at the vehicle mode though, this really does look really very nice. A gorgeous silver paint. One thing that I would say though is that I feel as if the paint really will enhance any kind of scratching. I've noticed that back here. I don't know how well that's going to come across. You can kind of, yeah, you can kind of see it right there. It's hard to see because of the lighting, but because of some of the transformation, it is scraped a little bit. And I'm noticing it there. Not so much anywhere else, but that's definitely unfortunate. I think that the very bright color of it is going to make something like that stand out. Rest of the vehicle mode wise looks really very nice. You got a nice clear windshield here. You do have that open top section, as in Dark of the Moon he went from being a hardtop to a convertible, and I like it. And one thing that's really nice is they added in some seat details. You can look here in the front. You got a steering wheel right in there as well. You do have some gapping right there. It's not terrible, it's not great, but I don't think it's absolutely atrocious. I do like how you have molded in here. I do have a problem with this side getting everything kind of squished all in. I mean, this side comes together pretty nice and seamless. This side here is a little bit gappy. I like how they do have the Stingray logo molded in there. You have some nice paint detail here with the front, and then a gorgeous Corvette logo right there, which you do also get in robot mode. We'll take a look at that here in a bit. The only thing that I would really say that lacks in here is some paint on the rims. That's something that comes across also in robot mode, but vehicle mode wise, I think that the paint looks really nice. You come around here to the back, you do see you got nice red paint for the taillights, which again will come in very handy for the robot mode. And then weapon storage, some people are probably going to call this a parts former, but like this whole section right here, this will detach in robot mode, and this as well as this are going to be his blades. And then here you can store his guns. I feel that's a little bit ridiculous because you already have the exhaust pipes right there. That I'm not a super huge fan of that, but it is weapon storage, I guess. In terms of a size comparison, unfortunately, I don't have any of the figures in their vehicle mold other than the World War II Bumblebee. So you can kind of see roughly the size for this guy. And I'm going to bring in a whole bunch for a comparison in robot mode, and that should be okay, right? You guys will kind of forgive me, won't you? He rolls. That's really about it. I do really love the look of this. Ever since I saw it in Revenge of the Fallen, I loved the look of this Corvette. And then in robot mode, just looks even better, I think. So to transform, first come around here to the sides, and you're going to just pull these off and detach them. Set those off to the side for right now. Come over here to the front sections. You then want to kind of loosen these up and kind of pull them away from the body just like that. They will tab in on the underside here, so you do have to kind of, when you're pulling it away, just kind of pull that out and get that out of the way. You can kind of loosen up these little bits, kind of separate that, and then take this section and lift this up from the front. You can rotate this around right now if you want. Come down to what are going to become his legs. You can split these and then swivel this piece, keep that there, and then rotate this and hinge this whole section down like that, and then bring this around. You want to then rotate these little outer pieces around, creating kind of like a pseudo foot for him. He isn't a full roller skating bot in this mode, which is kind of unfortunate. There we go, get that spread. But I think they did the best that they possibly could do with it. So rotate that around, spin that around, and you can kind of see you're creating a bit of a foot form. And then take this piece and fold that down. Do that on this side as well. So you're going to rotate this, and then this whole thing is going to spin around, put that in there, fold out what's going to become his foot sort of thing, and then fold that down like that. And basically you have his legs done. We'll fiddle with those here in a little bit because you do want to kind of chicken leg them a little bit just to create that more accurate look. But again, we'll worry about that here in a bit. Come around here to these arms. You want to take these, or what will become the arms. Take these. You can bring these out. You can take these sections and detach those. They just tab in. You got a little rectangular slot right there that slots in on the inside of the section here, which will be the outside of his hand. So just hinge these down, get these arms out of the way. Come on to the top. Now this part can get a little bit tricky, and a lot of times parts pop off for me, but like this right here. Kind of just loosen this from the side, and there's not a lot of space here. And this is where I was kind of worried about the paint rubbing. This I'll just have to plug back on there. But you want to lift this away from everything. And a lot of times, like this piece right here is just kind of caught on things. So kind of play with this till you can wedge that out. And then this piece you want to pull away. But again, it gets a little bit, I'll take this whole section. This is actually a very small step, but take this, collapse that down. This part doesn't. Pull this away. There you go. And then pull that all the way down. Let's take this piece and put this back on here. Get that kind of off to the side. That's just going to peg back in there. It's a ball joint, so it's pretty easy to get back in there. But there we go. Just like that. Then you want to take this section here, rotate this around, and then take this section, fold that down, get that hinged up and out of the way, and then rotate this piece around. And this is where I was kind of talking about. You take this, oh, I already spun that around, sorry. Keep that around like that. This whole section is going to collapse down here, and then this comes up and tabs into place. And then you can just position these towards the back. These right front sections kind of angle. I like kind of putting them off on a little V shape kind of angle there. Hinge these arms up. You got the hands on the inside here that are tough to get to. There you go. Come on. I got an idea. Take these and take the little tab right here. See if the tab is what pulls it in there. There we go. I cheat the system. Use a little tab because that little slot section is actually what these tabs are going to attach to for his blades. So there we go. So we got that. Now for more weapon storage, just kind of straighten him out like that. Take this section right here. You got a little tab on the inside here. I don't particularly like this. Keep the handle pointing here, but you got a little slot right on the inside here that will lock into, sort of. It's precarious at best. If you bump it, it'll probably fall out. But, you know, again, weapon storage for robot mode. Squeeze that in there. Yeah, see, that's gonna... They don't stay in there very well. There we go. But again, even though they don't stay in there well, it's a place for you to put the guns. There we go. Then take these guys. You want to then put that here on the back. No, let's do that one because it wraps around a little bit better. You got the little slot on the outside of the hand. That slots in there just like that. Do that on this one as well. Then we're just gonna kind of clean them up and play around. See, and that's gonna pop off. But when you're done there, and then again, you just kind of chicken leg his legs a little bit. But like I said, when you're done, there you have him in his tiny but really very cool looking robot mode. And while not a completely accurate representation of how Sideswipe looked in the movie, it is pretty damn close. This guy really does look terrific. The only thing that I would kind of say is a little bit disappointing compared to how he looks in his vehicle mode would be the lack of paint here. Specifically, like in the thigh areas, the arms, the head could use a tremendous amount of recoloring to him as well. I mean, you got this gorgeous silver on most of the car parts, and that's gonna pop off. Then you come down to the robot mode, and there's just a little bit too much drab. I mean, you see it down here with the lower portion of the legs. I mean, like the dark section here looks pretty good, but that just looks drab. The lighter color looks drab. You look in the torso area, that's nicely detailed and painted with some of this really dark, I don't know if that's gray or whatever, but it's just surrounded by this very, again, drab gray plastic. Now, for size comparisons, let's get that kind of out of the way. I'm going to set him here. His gun flopped off, so I'll worry about that later on. But setting him there, let's bring in another small little guy. Here's Jazz. Jazz is about the same height as him. Now, I know neither of these guys appeared in the same movie together, but I feel like, they would be good buddies together. Let's bring in Bumblebee. This is the newer version, obviously, but it's still the same size. Going with some bigger figures. This is where I think things get a little bit skewed. I feel like he should, well, at least in the case of like Ratchet here and Ironhide. Well, maybe not necessarily Ironhide. I feel like Ratchet should be a little bit taller. But I think that the Ironhide scale here works pretty good. Obviously, these two are buddies, but I like how that looks. And then bringing in the leader of the pack, here we have Optimus Prime. And then again, I feel like this is close enough. A lot of people talk about how Optimus should be considerably bigger, and yeah, he should be a big guy, but, And then just for the fun of it, because I haven't brought this guy out in a long time, and I kind of feel like this is almost Studio Series-esque. Here we have Q, or Wheeljack, whatever you want to call him. And I think that scale works pretty good as well. In general, I am happy with how my Autobot team here from the movies is really shaping up across the board. Although, poor little Bumblebee, let's get Bumblebee kind of showing a little bit. He's just hiding there in the back. But the overall, I think, scale, like I said, is pretty solid, and Sideswipe fits in very nicely. Now, coming in to take a closer look at some of the details. Again, I think that the face sculpt is fantastic. You got some nice blue paint there for the eyes, some nice dark kind of gunmetal paint there on the face. I just feel like the head area really could benefit from a very nice reflective shiny silver paint on there. As I mentioned, he does have some nice red taillights, which does really come across very nicely here in robot mode. I'm glad that they did it because it gives some color to him here. I love that they got the Corvette logo right in the middle of his chest. But again, great detail all the way throughout the entire figure. I even really like what they did here for the feet. By making it so that this can move around, you can really pinch this to get him to stand easily, which is something that a lot of previous Sideswipe figures had a problem being able to do. You couldn't really display him in a lot of good poses because this was locked into place. This, though, I mean, you can really get some cool poses and move things around and then rotate the legs to get them to stand kind of however you want. Now, as I showed you, you can tab these in. I don't feel like it's a very good sturdy tab. I mean, it sits there, but it pops off very, very easily. But you do have weapon storage for his guns, which is nice. You do also have his blades on here, which you can just detach. And there's not really, I mean, I guess maybe you could put them down here if you're going to use, do they actually fit in there? I don't think they do. I'm trying to see if they slot in there with that little bit. I don't feel like they do. So, oh no, that actually did stay in there until I pulled it out. Oh, whoa, they pop out. So, if you're not going to use these, you're kind of whatever. But taking those off, you get a more normal look for them. You can play with these how you want, as I talked about, and kind of create whatever sort of look you want. This is a more standard look for them without any of the weapons attached to them, and I do like the overall aesthetic of him. He definitely is one of the cooler looking Autobots from the film, and I wish we got more of them. I mean, we got, you know, obviously he was given to us in Revenge of the Fallen, and we got more of them in Dark of the Moon. I'm glad that we did. I just wish that we got a little bit more. The only thing aesthetically that really does kind of deviate would be the arm area. I mean, I'm trying to remember off of my memory, but I feel like these pieces were up here. But I think they do a really good job engineering the guy. First articulation, the head here is on a ball joint, so you can get a good range of motion with that. Looks up really nice and far, left, right, all that kind of jazz. And then I'm trying to see, does he have, oh, he's got like a clear section here in the back. So that's weird because his eyes are painted. So yeah, let's give him light piping and then paint the eyes. Okay. The shoulders here are on ball joints. You also do have that hinge as part of the transformation, but that's just going to come down and not really do much. So you do get a lot of articulation in just that ball joint, but you get the added bonus of that little transformation joint. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but it is there. He rotates at the upper part of the bicep. He also does have a hinge. I guess, again, as part of the transformation, he's got wrist articulation. Not all that great. He does rotate a little bit here at the waist, but some of the stuff here in his butt is going to limit some of it, but you do get some rotation. The hips here are on ball joints, moves in and out, forward and back. The thighs are really stiff on mine. It ends up pulling that off. So just be aware that you do have that rotation, but it could make things problematic for you. As part of the design, he does have this whole double chicken leg thing where you can see that goes back. I like how the little piston kind of slides up there, and then you have this piece which moves. Nothing really in terms of a tilt, but like I showed you, this can rotate around, and you can get a better range of posing options by being able to articulate that around in a circle. So I'm really happy with how they stabilized him. As I talked about, that was one of the issues in general, that he was a tough figure to ever really get to stand decently. But with the way that they did that, you can get it pretty good. And I really think they upped their game when doing this. Obviously, he's got his guns. You can put those in there and he can hold his gun. So that is, what it is. But a really, really good figure. Now to transform him back, he is a little bit trickier going into his vehicle mode than coming into his robot mode. But first I'm going to take his hands, tuck those up and under just like so, and then get these kind of out of the way, and then hinge these arms down just like that. Come around to the top section, you can take these and you can straighten these out, kind of pull them away from the body a little bit. Then come around here to the back section, take the what would basically be the hood, separate that, and then you can extend this piece up, and then this whole section here is going to rotate around just like that. Kind of fold that kind of down along the side, and then bring this piece up, and you can spin that around just like so as well. This part here can get a little bit tricky. You kind of want to pull I mean, you don't really have to do it, but you kind of could. I just don't like putting too much pressure on there, but kind of wiggle it and pull it away just to create that spoiler look, and then fold this piece up just like that. And then take this entire section here and detach this, bringing that all the way up. You pull his head down there, and then you can bring this piece up and around, and this will get a little bit tricky. There's not a lot of space to do things. That's why it's a little bit easier to go into his robot mode, because you're just pulling things apart. This piece, though, you have to bring up and over this back area, and it does get a little, like I said, tight to do. So kind of get this. There we go. All right. And then take these little pieces here and kind of hinge these up along the back. And then this you just kind of tab together. Again, this piece here is a bit problematic, as you could see previously. So just do your best that you can to try and mitigate that whole section. And then there we go. See, and that just keeps popping out, just because, again, like I said, there's not a lot of area to do things with here. It's a tight fit, but it's a little bit frustrating, to be honest. So let's kind of get that all the way fucking in there. There we go. And then just tab all this kind of together as best as you can. Just kind of leave it there. I'll clean it up here in a bit. This section here, you're going to then straighten this, and then these are going to come up here. So let's do that. Just basically get these arms kind of out of the way. And then put that in there. Kind of pull these little pieces out to the side. If you want to, this is where you can start squeezing that kind of stuff together and get that locked up here. You got little tabs and everything that kind of lock in around the shoulder area. So kind of just push that in there. There we go. Kind of have to feel for it as you're pushing, and you'll eventually feel it kind of clip into place. Now, these little side panels, though, here can be a little bit problematic. Just kind of play with that as you go along. There we go. Come down here to the feet. You're going to take this section. We're going to open this on both sides, and take this, and then you fold this around, and then you just kind of collapse this around like that, or bring that around, and then rotate this whole thing around. Then you want to rotate the tire and all that stuff to the point where it will line up with kind of the side right there. So again, do that on here. I'm going to fold this around. This is going to rotate, kind of straighten these legs out, bring that down, and then you can bring these two halves together, squeeze that, and then just, nope, wrong way, rotate that around, kind of get that in the proper position. You can bring the front section here. It's a little bit tricky. There we go. I guess the stuff decided to shift inward here, so you can keep that out. There we go. Bring that down, and all of this stuff here is going to line up along the side and slot in right there. And we can play with these little side bits, kind of just holding everything in there as best as you can. Let's see, this piece here is like causing issues. There you go. And then you want to take these, and this is, you know, the whole parts forming gimmick. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Just kind of bring this along the side. Actually, you want to use this side and kind of slot this up. Kind of hold that there, and then push this in, and you will then push a little tab piece on the inside of his thigh. That locks everything right there, and just kind of squeeze all this. Come on to the other side, do that over here as well. So again, you kind of slot these little tabs together, and as you do that, kind of push up and then push in. And this side here, I always have kind of a hard time getting everything closed off perfectly. That gap, I have a hard time getting clean. So it's a little bit gappy there, and then get that up there. That side is perfectly clean. Now, in vehicle mode, you can take these and you can put these underneath here. You tab them on the inside slots. You could see that kind of before with the robot mode. I don't really like that, so I'm not even going to bother doing that. But when you're done, there you have Sideswipe back in his vehicle mode. All in all, though, another terrific release in the Studio Series line by Hasbro. When Sideswipe was first shown to us in Revenge of the Fallen, it was a design that I absolutely fell in love with. With a really sleek looking Corvette and a pretty fun looking robot mode, this guy was one that I wanted to see more of, and I'm glad that we got more of him in Dark of the Moon. And honestly, vehicle mode wise, I like the Dark of the Moon look more because I like the convertible aspect. And Hasbro did a really good job of recreating it. I love how they added in the extra detail of having seats and a steering wheel. The paint on here is really nice. You do want to be careful with this back section here, as I talked about, just because this is a very reflective, shiny paint that is going to show off very easily. But if you are careful when you're going through the transformation and not rub too much, you should be able to avoid things like that. Vehicle mode wise here, the only thing that I would really add is I wish I could get some of these lines to tab in a little bit better, but that just might be because I don't have things kind of rotated around here. But I would have liked to have seen some extra paint put into the tires themselves. I mean, you got the black for the tire, but then the rims could add a little, paint splash on there. But all in all, it's pretty good. Transformation is fairly simple. There are some really cool things that are happening with it. And when you get to that robot mode, as I said, while not entirely accurate looking, it's just about as good as we're ever going to get. This is without a doubt the best version of Sideswipe that we've ever gotten from the movie line. So without question, I would recommend picking this guy up and adding him to your display as soon as you see him. So, all that being said, if Sideswipe is a figure that you would like to add to your collection, he is hitting various retail locations right now. So if you're looking for him, good luck and happy hunting. Or as always, there's places such as Big Bad Toy Store. For that, I'll put a link down in the video description where you'll go to BBTS and you can check out availability on this guy as well as the rest of the wide range of Studio Series figures. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. Remember, if you like this video, guys, I would really appreciate your support simply by hitting that little thumbs up button. That one tiny gesture really does go a long way towards helping me out, and I would really appreciate it. And a huge thank you if you made it all the way to the end of this review. Another way that you can really help support my channel is making sure that you watch a video all the way through. And if you did that, thank you. And a huge shout out to all of my patrons, who through their continued support now more than ever help to make reviews like this possible. And finally, remember, the real trouble with the world is that too many people grow up. Thank you for watching and taking the time to be a kid.